Oh, here we are again. Antisocial podcast, etc. Another episode. At this point in time, the date is the 4th of August, and I still haven't even launched my podcast yet. Why? Because I'm a procrastinator, and when something's too hard basket, I don't bother doing it. I just keep putting it off, as I'm sure there's probably a few people out there that do the same thing. What's holding me back at the moment? Just stupid stuff. I've got to put some sort of image into this podcast plugin of WordPress to get it up online, and I don't have a picture that matches the dimensions of what they're asking for. So now I've asked for the guy who helped me put it together to send me through the image that would meet the dimensions, and he's in the process of moving house, and which is quite funny because I kind of chill out and relax when I know that I'm waiting on someone else and I'm not waiting on myself, so the pressure's off me, which is just ridiculous. So anyway, hopefully up and running soon. But if you're still listening to this, and I don't know what episode this is going to be, possibly episode 5, thank you so much. I think once these actually become live and but when they're live, there will be a groove that's created. You guys will be able to see a lot more consistency with some of these intros as well. And I'll probably have a few more things to say based on how the reaction of the first few episodes go from you guys, and that'll start to shape and form the way that the podcast continues to go in the future. But I figured while I'm procrastinating with a lot of this stuff, that I would actually just keep recording and just keep building this content until I finally work out these challenges that I've got, because to be honest, I'm extremely impatient and I've got a short attention span when it comes to new things, and when it comes to building a website and working out how to upload podcast episodes and whatnot. That stuff just, it fucks with my head, and I just put it off. I put it off, and that's why, I mean, this whole thing should have gone online back in March, and here we are in August, and I'm still stuffing around. So I've outsourced a few things. So I got Tim from our band to help me put together the website to a degree. He keeps telling me that, this is all easy. So, just do this. And I'm like, well, I haven't got a good attention span. I've got better things to do, which is such a laugh. But I have sat there and tried to fiddle with it. So you might find with the website, there's a few things that don't make sense, or there's a few dodgy links or some stuff that just looks crap. Let me know and I'll get to it when I can, and I'll slowly polish that turd as much as I possibly can. Also did, there's an app called Airtasker. I'm sure it's on Android, but on iPhone it's there. And basically you go on there and you put up a job ad, so to speak, and just say, look, I've got something that needs to be done, a task. This is what I can pay someone, and is anyone interested in helping me out? So I did it for the podcast stuff. Tim gave me all the tools and the information of how to edit my podcasts and slap it all together. I knew that if I left it to my own devices, it would never happen, or I'd probably be doing this episode instead of August 2015, it'd be August 2020. So I ended up putting the audio editing job up on Airtasker, and a great guy by the name of Damien, who would be listening to this right now as he's editing the audio. Thanks, Damien, you're a champ. Got in contact and explained a bit about himself and what he does. And I started sending him through the raw files, and he started slapping it all together and making it sound great. So that's really helped sort of move it along a bit more. And to be honest, I probably should just outsource absolutely everything, but it's more of a case of just finding the right people. And, I've only got so much money as well, so I don't want to start heavily investing heaps of dollars into something that I still don't know which direction it's going. But hey, we're getting there, and it's slowly moving. So a funny thing that I always, well, not funny thing, but a thing that I always hear with a lot of professional podcasts that I listen to is that podcasts have all got sponsors. I know that maybe when I get to episode 600, I may have enough of a fan base or a listener base that will warrant somebody wanting to be a sponsor. But what I've decided to do, just to make this, I guess, funny, is that I will just put sponsor ads at the start of my podcast regardless, but instead of saying this episode is brought to you by this, I'll say this episode is not brought to you by this, and then I'm just going to start rattling off about something that I like, and that's it. Not for any reason, not to get any brownie points with a particular product. Most of the things that I'm probably going to be talking about probably don't even exist anymore. It's just for a bit of a laugh and probably a bit more of an opportunity to ramble and add a bit of extra time to my episode. So yeah, we'll do that. I won't do it for this episode. I'll probably do it for the next one. But hey, a bit of context for you. So this episode is by a guy I know by the name of Riley. Riley is quite a fascinating guy. And to be honest, I've known him for quite a few years, but never really known him personally. And it wasn't until a flight back from, I think it was back from Perth, and Tim was telling me about Riley and just mentioning a bunch of the things that he does, and just said, oh, he'd be a really good guy for your podcast thing when you get it up and running for a guest. Very interesting guy as far as Riley's a musician, but he's also I'll have to get this right. A computer engineer or software engineer, very much into quantum computing. He's written a few books regarding it, which sort of blew me away. Does heaps of different things, and he seems to be a very sort of out there guy and an out there personality, and at the same time very grounded and very down to earth. And I've bumped into him quite a few times over the years, and always pleasant conversation, but it's only been in passing. So this is the first time that I've actually had a chance to speak to him properly and just get a bit more insight into his life and what he's done and what he's doing now. And I guess that's the great thing about this podcast, and I can't remember if I mentioned it in the first episode in the intro, but you tend to not just sit down with people and just chat to them. I don't do that. I don't catch up with people for coffee, although I've just started drinking coffee recently, which I guess I'm growing up, aren't I? But I don't just call someone up and say, hey, let's catch up for lunch, or let's catch up for dinner, or let's catch up for a coffee and have a chat. More or less the only time I see these people are when we're at gigs, we're in a busy bar, we're at somewhere where there's a lot of alcohol involved. And yeah, sometimes the conversations go down a D&M path and get quite heavy and whatnot, but to be honest, when there's alcohol involved, usually the next morning, 7/8 of that conversation have left the planet, so to speak, and you'll never get them back. So to me, it's still an awkward thing to try and have just a normal conversation with someone with no agenda whatsoever, which sounds a bit bad, but I guess that's, maybe it's a personal development thing that I need to continue to work on and get better at. So the podcasting is a great tool for me to use to get to know the people that I surround myself with and that I've interacted with in the past or continue to interact with, or even just people that I've never met before as well. So this is a great episode in the sense that I'm really I'm genuinely experiencing and learning about what Riley's doing for the first time. And you'll notice that I have no idea what the hell he's talking about half the time, especially when he's talking about quantum computing. To me, it all sounds really interesting, but so much of it went over my head. But I do hope that there are people out there who either have an appreciation for quantum computing, know a little bit about it, or even for the people that have got absolutely no clue, they may be able to pull out a few things from what Riley's saying and hopefully get something of interest out of it. I hope you enjoy it. I'm going to have links on my page in the show notes for Riley's books, for his current music projects, the main one being Shanghai at the moment. But I'll put everything in there that's referenced in the interview or the discussion or whatever the hell you want to call it. And please find him on Facebook, and whether it's through a band page or whether it's through email or Facebook or whatever the hell it is, and just let him know that you genuinely don't just make it up or lie. But if you do genuinely enjoy what he's got to say, make contact with him and let him know, because it just makes the whole thing worthwhile, and it's good to hear these things back as well from my end. So enjoy it. I'll probably put a little outro on this episode as well with some information, some further information based on what Riley's up to and what he's doing. Or if I can just think of something else to fill in the time, then I'll ramble something off at the end. But hope you enjoy it. And I don't know, blah, blah, blah. After all this time, after all these weeks, we finally made it happen.
Yeah.
I guess to give you a bit of context, I was coming back from Perth with Tim whenever it was, the end of May. And we're talking about this podcast that I'm putting together, and he's like, oh, you should get Riley on. I'm like, oh, and he starts rattling off all these things that you've done or you do and whatnot. I'm like, oh, shit, I didn't know about half of these things. He's like, yeah, I think you'd be pretty interesting to get on.
Cool.
I mean, we've hardly ever spoken. We've only seen each other at gigs over the years and whatnot. So there's a lot of things I've just sort of scrambled through and tried to get a bit of info as to what you get up to. So I'm just going to throw a bunch of random stuff at you, and I guess this will be a great topic starter: quantum computing.
Right. Okay.
Especially for someone who knows jack about it.
Zilch about it.
Yeah. But it sounds interesting and something that I did not really expect any sort of musician from a stereotypical point of view to be involved with.
Yeah, it is an odd. Sorry, I've got a bottle of Glenfiddich, and I am just pouring myself a beautiful glass of this lovely liquid.
Enjoy. I'm doing dry July, so I've got my green tea.
Oh, okay, right.
But enjoy that.
To really understand what quantum computing is, you have to understand what conventional computing is. And conventional computing is using computers in an analog sort of sense. Sorry, I've got my dog next to me. Come on, let's move. Classic computers are based on sort of mechanistic rules that we as people that aren't in the quantum world find quite easy to understand. But quantum computers use specific properties of subatomic particles to do calculations and to do things that we just can't do in the macroscopic world. So the idea really started with a physicist named Richard Feynman, who's quite a famous science popularist. And he was saying that with a quantum system, if you want to try and model that using a classical computer, then the amount of resources that you need just to model a simple quantum system are vast. So he reasoned from that if you could build a computer out of quantum parts, then you could model that quantum system with less resources. So that got people thinking, well, quantum mechanics has some strange properties. These subatomic particles have some strange properties. Perhaps we can use them to do something that we can't do with classical computers. And then in the mid-'80s, a guy called David Deutsch, who is another physicist, was thinking about this, and he actually came up with an algorithm using some of the math that physicists use, and he showed that you could do a calculation faster using these kind of proto-quantum circuits based on quantum mechanical principles than you could if you did the same thing with conventional classical computing components. You got to understand, it's very hard to try and explain this without going into the math or using terms that any sort of layman wouldn't understand. So anyway, David Deutsch came up with a thing called Deutsch's algorithm, which was a really simple way to demonstrate how using subatomic particles to do calculations gave you some kind of advantage. And then on top of this, purely mathematical, at an abstract level, circuits were built, logic gates and stuff were built, and then larger quantum algorithms were built on top of these simple circuits and gates. And I guess I have to explain what a gate is. A gate in classical terms is, you might have, for example, an AND gate, which takes 2 bits. A bit is either a 1 and a 0. Yep. 2 input bits. And if both of the bits are a 1, then it'll produce a 1. If both of the bits are 0, it'll produce a 0. If either of the bits are 1 and the other bit is 0, then it'll also produce a 0. So a gate performs a function on a series of input bits. So these gates then make up circuits, and these circuits then are used to make up algorithms. So in the classical world, we have a standard bit, which is either a 1 or a 0. Yep. In the quantum world, we have what's called a qubit, which is, now this is where it gets interesting, which is a superposition of both 1 and a 0 until you look at it.
All right, yeah, okay.
So that's the core of quantum computing, this superposition of a quantum 1 and a 0 as an analogue to the conventional bit, which is either in a state of being 1 or 0.
Yeah, right.
So I guess putting that into, where the world's going and in what direction it's going, how could quantum computing apply into our everyday lives as far as where technology is going and devices and different functionalities that we may require in the future with quantum computing itself?
Just having a sip of Glenfiddich before I answer this question.
You might need it. Or where are the advantages with
Well, we don't even know if we can build one of these things. So it's a bit up in the air. There are companies that have claimed that they've built a quantum computer, they've built quantum circuits and stuff, but I mean, it's yet to be proven categorically that this has been done. So with this superposition principle and another principle called entanglement, which allows you to entangle these qubits together into something called the quantum register. The register, by the way, is a whole bunch of qubits together that can represent numbers depending on the number of quantum bits you've got. So if you've got a large number of qubits, you can store a number of a certain size in that qubit, which then becomes a superposition of all of the numbers. So it's kind of all of the numbers at once until you look at the register, then it collapses down to one of the numbers.
Right.
Whereas a standard register only stores one number. The issue is that with these quantum registers, that once you look at them, once you probe the quantum register to find out what the value is, it'll always give you a value back, and then the superposition will be busted. So when you measure it, you're only ever going to get one value back. So the only potential gain you can get from these things is when they're all doing stuff together in this weird superposed state. So you get a whole bunch of these quantum registers and circuits together. You do shit with them. I'm not sure if I can swear on your podcast, but...
you can. Let it rip.
I just did, sir. Yep. So you do shit with these quantum registers, and then you got some output registers. You examine that register, and there's a value. So the people struggled for a while to. I mean, is there any value in this? Because we can't friggin'. We're not getting multiple values at once in the output. But as it turns out, there are some advantages in some very specific areas to doing this. One of the areas is encryption. So we can theoretically decrypt certain kinds of encryption exponentially faster than we could with classical computers.
Right.
So the hackers can use quantum computing to hack encryption, and the military could use quantum computers to crack, say, RSA-based encryption for an enemy, so they could read an enemy's messages. We can also get what's called a quadratic speed up, which is not an exponential speed up, which is doubling the doubling, but a quadratic speed up is still substantial on doing a database search, which is a much more everyday kind of operation. That's why companies like Google are interested in quantum computers, because they can speed up searching.
Yeah, okay, gotcha. So is this why you've been having multiple attempts of getting into Google? No,
that's just I have a couple of mates that work at Google, and they put my name forward, and I've had 2 rounds of interviews with them, and you do several interviews in each one. First time I just did a phone interview, and the second time I did, I think it was 6, either 5 or 6 interviews. Their interviewing process is grueling. So I didn't get through they're like a filter process. So I didn't get through the last interview in that chain of interviews, and you have to get through all of them. Now it's really hard to get in. When they got in, it was substantially easier. They got in near the start, near when Google wasn't as big.
So what's you're saying six odd stages to try and get through. What are the differences between these guys and conventional employers as far as an interview process? I mean, I know how a standard interview goes when you're trying to recruit someone, but I would assume that Google probably has a slightly different approach when they're trying to get new staff on board.
Yeah, look, it was fucking hard. The first interview is just the standard sort of meet and greet, and then the second interview, they just chuck you right in the deep end. To prepare for the second interview, I had to cover my walls. I covered my entire kitchen in computer science, just basically the entirety of computer science that I could think of. I printed it all out and covered all of my walls because it was a phone interview.
Yeah.
And they give you a series of problems over these phone interviews, and you have to try and solve this thing while you're on the phone. So I had to, be looking at. I can't actually tell you what the questions are either.
Yeah. Okay.
From the second interview on, and I had a couple of phone interviews, I had to, just be looking at all my various different charts and graphs and notes on the walls and stuff to solve these problems. And they got harder and harder. And then I had to do interviews, face-to-face interviews, a series of those. And again, they hit you with a problem each time, a specific problem that you have to solve. And there was one that I just couldn't remember specifically I couldn't remember how to solve this thing with power rules, which is so my math let me down in the fifth or the sixth interview, whatever I got up to.
So do they make you sign a waiver? When you mentioned you can't make mention of what questions you were given, were you given any sort of waiver that you had to, or even a verbal waiver? Yeah,
look, there is a thing that you have to. I can't remember specifically. What I can remember is that I don't think I can discuss it anyway. It might be worth looking back at that to find out if I can talk about them. But I'm pretty sure that that there was a contract there that said that I couldn't discuss what the particular problems were.
So you were obviously trying to go into a particular role at Google. What was the role itself?
It was just a generic. They have a bunch of sort of generic roles, and once you get in there, you can. That was just a generic software engineer role.
Gotcha. Yeah.
You just find your niche, I guess.
Yeah.
When you're in there.
Yeah. No worries. And so, what do you, as far as with computer science and whatnot, I know you've been studying it. Are you still studying it now? Yeah,
I'm still doing, at the moment, I've been doing this PhD for the last 7 years or something. So I've got to finish this. I'm doing a PhD. I've got to finish it soon. The PhD itself is on, originally it was a thing called quantum game theory, but there are very few people in Australia that could help. And the physicist that was going to help decided that he didn't have time. So I had to change my topic to algorithmic trading. So that's, it's related to algorithmic trading on the stock exchange. That's robotic trading.
It could be quite interesting for people that are heavily investing in the stock market.
Yeah, there's a lot of checks and balances now for algorithmic trading bots. You can only make so many trades. You can only access the stock exchange's digital gateway every so often. You can't hog the thing, for example. So it's become a lot more regulated, I think.
Yeah.
Not that I know that much about that side of it, but a lot of it's still bullshit. A lot of it's witchcraft and, looking at charts and stuff like that. You got to be a bit skeptical about what they call technical analysis, which is looking at graph trends and stuff like that. It's it's not an exact science at all. And the companies that do well with the algorithmic trading bots tend to keep their algorithms very secret.
I guess for good reason.
Yeah. So it's the stuff we do academically is probably 10 years behind what companies are doing in the real world.
I read a little bit about sort of stockbroking and investing in stocks and whatnot, and some of the challenges that everyday Joe has getting into the stock market just on your own and using a broker with some of these larger organisations that use, which I would assume is something similar to what you're mentioning, where within a split second of a change in the market, whatever it is, an algorithm or something kicks in where a transaction's made without any opportunity for anybody with your own human intuition to be able to make a decision and make a change with your own investments, where these larger corporations have got these automated systems that are able to detect and react based on what happens in the global market. Is that something?
Yeah, that's exactly right. As a day trader or someone that just dabbles, I mean, right? You're up against robots that can do thousands, millions of analysis calculations per second, depending, more than that even, and trade at rates that, I mean, just the fact that they can access the stock exchange in sort of sub-second intervals and stuff, you can't possibly beat them.
Might have to find another way to make some money.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the way to make some money on the stock exchange is to actually know the companies, the Warren Buffett sort of method to...
And maybe just stick at it for the long haul.
Yeah.
Unless you can invest, almost all of your time every day to keep an eye on it, it's probably best just to sort of leave things go and look at an overall growth and stick with it when it crashes and.
Yeah, well, that's what I do. Yeah, I just leave it to go. I mean, I just realised that even though I'm studying in that area, it's just too hard. I'm screwed. I can't do anything.
That's it. So you've got stock? You got shares?
Yeah, well, I have had.
Yeah.
But, I mean, there's obviously as part of my superannuation, I have stock and I look at that.
Yeah.
But no, I've sold any stock that I do have personally. So I don't do stock anymore. I've got a bit of property, but that's about it.
Yeah, well, it's I think it's something, if I ever dabble in it in the future, I'll do it, and I'll probably just make an effort not to look at it too often. Otherwise, I think it'll do my head in. Yeah,
well, that's what they say, isn't it? The people that can just let it slide and not worry about it are the people that are successful at it. I don't know. I've never been successful at it, so I wouldn't know.
Oh, well, that'll be something to look at in the future, maybe. But Tim mentioned, and I'm not sure if this is exactly right, but have you written a couple of books on computer programming?
Yeah, I'm published through a few different publishing companies. I've got quantum computing from the ground up through World Scientific. I was the technical advisor on a book on programming for A-Press. I've got one published in Arabic.
Right, okay.
Introduction to Quantum Computing. And the original one I started was a kind of an open book, and it was an open book on quantum computing because all the stuff I read was just too fucking hard. I mean, it didn't... When I started the whole thing, I was not the kind of person that could easily ingest the material that I was reading. I mean, I was very much a layman and my math skills weren't particularly good. So what I did was I decided to write a book from the perspective of someone like myself that didn't have really good math skills, a particularly bad memory from a youth of excess and trying to be a rock star.
I'm still trying that.
Still trying, yeah. The book was, I made a realisation at a certain point that the only way I was going to understand quantum computing was to learn the math, and it was just all bullshit, a lot of hand-wavy, vague sort of crap that really didn't make sense when people were talking about it at an abstract level. The only way you can really understand it is with the math. So I wanted to introduce the math from the start. So I started with basic trigonometry and then led into the sort of higher level math that you need to understand quantum computing. And then only halfway through the book do you actually get into the quantum computing. It's a math primer, I guess, to begin with. And then also a physics primer as well for the basic physics principles. So I put this together and it was pretty shit, because it had lots of errors in it. It was chocker full of mistakes. So I put it on a site called Slashdot, which is a kind of a well-known nerd site. And I said, look, this is a kind of an open book project. You guys, and this was in 2004, I think.
Okay.
And I said to the Slashdot community, I said, look, have a crack at this book. Come back at me with suggestions and errors and all this sort of stuff. I want to make this book the best book in the world for quantum computing for the layman. And I had an awesome response to that. I had maybe 60 people reading it and giving me feedback and stuff. And one guy that kind of took the lead is a member of something called the Giga Society, which is the 6 most intelligent people in the world. So his IQ is 230 something. So once I got him on board, I was home. He went through every chapter, and my IQ is half his, and you can see that in the result. So that's the way that was the germ for the book that was then released by World Scientific. So it's kind of a unique way of writing a book. I kind of gave it to the cloud and said, Cloud, here's a little proto book. You guys finish it off. And The smart people took it and they did the real work.
So was the intention initially with the book to just write something that was for yourself in the sense that you would get a better understanding as you completed the book, or was it something that you always had the intention of writing it for the masses? So, as you said, from a layman's point of view, to be able to understand the concept.
Well, it started off as a series of notes for myself, and then I thought, well, I could make a book out of this. So at some point, it morphed into a book.
And how well's it gone?
Well, I know it had at least 20,000 odd downloads from one site that I had it on. So and it was all over the place. The book itself, in the original book, World Scientific have asked me to do a second edition now. So I'm assuming it's gone reasonably well. I've got royalties from it, so I've made a bit of money off it. You don't make much money off books, I've discovered. But
harsh realities, music and books.
Music and books, yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And you mentioned you had another one there that's been written in Arabic.
Yeah, that was.
So how'd that come about?
Well, that was an Iranian friend of mine. Well, no, actually, he was from Jordan. Sorry, he's a professor from Jordan who was living in Iraq at the time. He was interested in quantum computing and he wanted to do the same thing for the Arabic world. So, yeah, he wrote one based on my book in Arabic. And then, yeah, an Iranian guy, great guy, took the project over and, yeah, he kind of finished that from Iran.
Wow, okay. And are all these books that you've mentioned, are they still available online for people to get?
Yeah.
I'll get some links from you. That sounds cool because not that I'll understand half of it or 3/4 of it or maybe 7/8 of it, but I'm sure there might be a few people out there that might be keen to check it out as well.
Oh, I'm sure you would. It's tough going though. I mean, I picked it up to try and revise for this podcast, and and you need some dedication to get through it.
I might have to dabble a bit more into it over the coming months, and then we'll have a catch up in a few months' time, and I'll test my knowledge with you.
Sounds good.
Now, the other thing I noticed when I was doing a bit of stalking is you've got a mention of a business iProfile. Is that a company that you work for? Yeah,
that's right. That's
is that computer programming as well?
Well, it's recruitment industry software.
Okay.
The story there is I was going for an interview at Channel 9 and I went for this interview and the recruiter, I had a cold and I said to the recruiter, dude, man, I've got a cold and I feel like crap. I really don't want to do this interview. I'm happy to go in and say hello, but if they give me a test and stuff, no way am I going to do it. And he goes, no, don't worry, mate. Don't worry, there'll be no test. All right, no test. Sounds good. And, so I rocked in. Of course, there was a fucking test. And so I refused to do the thing. I said to the guy, look, this recruiter, he told me there was going to be no test, and there's a test here, so I'm not going to do this. It's a waste of my time. And so I buggered off. And I got pissed off at the recruiter, and I said, look, man, you said there'd be no test. There was a test. I'm pretty annoyed, man. And he really got the shits with me. And he said, dude, fuck you, man. I'm going to blacklist you. We've got this blacklist. You're fucked. You're going on it. That scared the shit out of me, right? So I was looking for a job anyway, and I got an interview at a place called iProfile. It turns out that the blacklist he was talking about is actually like a recruitment system, and iProfile did recruitment systems. So I thought, fuck, this coincidence is too good to pass up. So I joined, and so effectively, I mean, not in reality, but effectively kind of I run the blacklist, you know. There is no blacklist, by the way. I just thought the irony of it was so good to pass up. And then the guys were great, and I get a chance to be in a kind of a startup-y business. Those recruitment people are amazing people to party with. They're very good at their jobs, but also very good at partying. And I've had some good times. So
is iProfile the actual software that's used, or does iProfile develop software that is used by recruitment agencies? Well,
iProfile is they originally started out as a kind of a competitor to LinkedIn.
Okay.
And so it's like another kind of LinkedIn profile. It's business social media like LinkedIn. So we're going to LinkedIn's ass.
And you're working in a similar capacity as far as a software
Yeah, I'm IT
engineer.
I'm IT director, so I run all of the IT stuff for the company.
Okay, all right, cool. Well, all right, I might shift gears a little bit.
Yeah, let's shift.
We'll go something a bit lighter. So musically,
yes.
into the other realm, I know you're currently doing the whole Shanghai thing, and I was actually on your Facebook page looking to see what you're currently up to, and there's not a great deal on there.
No.
So I think the last update was in May saying announcement coming soon.
Yes.
There was a couple of dots after it and a little smiley face. So I thought, oh yeah, we'll see what that all means. But I assume there's still an album in the pipeline.
Yeah, the album's done. The Birds Road label. So the album's ready. I'm not in control of dropping the album. So it's going to drop in a month or so, I think. We're doing a bit of a tour for when it drops. Yeah, so it's ready, and we're doing vinyl and stuff. So it's all being pressed, and the CDs are being pressed and all that sort of stuff. It's actually the debut album, even though Shanghai's been around it's got to be 16, 17 years or something now. It's actually the first album.
Better late than never.
Better late than never, that's right.
The label that you're releasing through, is it the Birds Road?
Yeah, the Birds.
Yeah. They've been really active the last couple of years with artists. I mean, there's a lot of bands that have been released through them. So it's from what I can see, and I mean, they seem to deal with a lot more not so much indie rock, but a lot of progressive rock.
Yeah, the real prog label. Mike and Alex are massive. Mike and Alex were running it. I'm not sure if Alex is still at the helm, but Mike certainly is. He's just a massive prog fan, and so am I. So you are too, aren't you, Andy? You're a huge prog fan too.
Oh, I am. I guess it depends on the band.
Yeah.
But I do like a lot of prog, and I like a lot of the bands on their label as well, which I've only discovered because of them.
Yeah.
So it's been I've been quite impressed with what they've been doing, because I think I've ordered a few things from them, and they're probably one of the only, I think, they're one of the only local labels, but also I'm lumping in the artists as well, as far as Australian artists, that actually send out additional promotional material with their packages. So, they're really pushing hard with all their other artists. So I might order something from, I don't know, Troll Hogan or something like that, and I'll get another 4 or 5 flyers advertising all their other releases. And it's not just, a half-assed, half piece of paper. There's quite a bit in there. And they're really, really proactive, which I'm not surprised at, but it's refreshing to see, because I think a lot of people have just given up on the old school approach of the mail outs and giving the information that way. I think that people just rely on social media alone for the most part. So it's nice to see, because they appear to have a lot of that old school approach still.
Well, they got Sleep Makes Waves got to the Arias, right? So Mike was at the Arias, so that was a massive step forward for the label. I mean, that's
in about a month or so you're looking at the release, and then you're going to go and do a small tour after that.
Yeah, well, not necessarily small. We've got a bunch of East Coast gigs booked already, so there's Brisbane and Melbourne and stuff. I don't think we've got anything on the West Coast booked. I'd like us to go to Southeast Asia, but it's getting everyone out there. The full band is a 9-piece.
Yeah, right.
We only ever really get to play as a 9-piece when we're in Brisbane, which is a hassle. But, the Brisbane gigs are great. I mean, I fucking missed the plane to the last Brisbane gig.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I was at the airport. I went with Tiger, man. Don't fucking go to gigs with Tiger.
Yeah. No, that's a mistake straight away.
Yeah. I was 42 minutes. I was 3 minutes late or something for the cutoff. There, no, can't get on, and I'm looking on morose in the airport with my bass guitar, and it was shocking.
So did you make it to the gig at all?
No, I missed the gig. No, sorry, I was playing guitar.
Yeah, okay.
I swap instruments, so it was good. I wasn't needed.
All right.
Yeah.
So they could make do.
They could make do, yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we've steered well clear from Tiger. We've seen a few mates in other bands that have attempted to use them to save a few dollars, and have had flights cancelled on them while they're sitting at the gate waiting, and not having any other flight replacing it, and basically being told, well, tough. That's just the way it is, and no reason as to why. So we just thought we'll spend a bit of extra money and hopefully have a guarantee of getting a flight to wherever we're going.
Speaking of releases, I'm really keen to hear the next Lord release. I mean, what's the word there? Can you say anything about it, or is it?
Well, we just put out the new EP, so that's out now.
It's out now. Okay.
So obviously my elite promotional activity is not working as well as it should, if you don't know. I'll send you a copy of it because it's getting some pretty good feedback so far.
Oh, wonderful.
So,
Cool. Man.
yes. So it's one of Tim's brainchilds. This 25+ minute
that
massive metal epic.
Yeah. Okay, that's out. Excellent.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right,
So
looking forward to that.
Chucked a bunch. Yeah, we chucked a bunch of covers.
What?
End of June. So it's been out for what are we now? 20-something. So almost a month.
Okay, right.
Yeah, so yeah, it's been going really well and really good feedback. We've only just done like an independent release.
Yep.
We haven't bothered with distro or anything like that. It's more just to fill in the gap.
Mastered by Tim.
Yeah. Yep.
Cool.
Everything Tim.
Right. Okay. Excellent.
And which is quite funny because depending on who you speak to in the sound engineering world, a lot of people seem to think it's a big no-no to have to record, mix and master yourself. But I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm biased, but it seems that Tim can pull it off and seems to get a pretty non-biased sound at the end of it. So it's I think it just continues to improve with each release. So we used to get approached by a lot of engineers from overseas trying to get work from us. Yep. And as soon as they find out that Tim's done all the previous releases, they put a great deal of effort in to tell us how much of a big no-no that is, and how we really need somebody that's disconnected, that can hear it subjectively and do a well-justified mix and master.
Yeah, okay.
So, which I can understand, but I think Tim's a bit of a freak in a lot of ways, and I think he's managed to really sort of evolve that over time. And I can definitely hear it if I listen to something that he's done, even 5 or 6 years ago compared to now. It's just such a dramatic difference. So I think he's.
Do you know what tech is he using to master at the moment? Do you know?
No, I'm not sure what he's using at the moment. Every time he starts talking about his whatever version software or whatever he's using, I tend to glaze over a little bit. So, but he's definitely getting a great sound, and I think even just getting general feedback from people who probably don't really understand the mechanics behind it, and getting, I think as soon as you get positive feedback in that sense, you're onto something good anyway. So yeah, it's been going quite well. So yeah, I'll have to send you through a copy to check out, because it's funny, when he initially pitched the idea, I was not sold on it whatsoever. I thought this just sounds a little bit too over the top, a little bit too prog. So It was only when he really started patching it together, and it probably wasn't until later in the whole writing process that you could visualize it a bit more. And he has it in his head. I mean, he writes songs 6 months in advance, and it's all in his head. He doesn't track it or doesn't do anything. He goes, "Oh yeah, I've written 6 songs." I'm like, "Oh yeah, cool. Where are they?" And he's like, "Oh, they're in my head." Oh right, okay, no worries. But now, and towards the end of the whole process, I understand what he's on about. So I understand why he's been so excited for the last however many months trying to put this whole big thing together. So, and a lot of people are reacting to it extremely well. So I'm pretty blown away. I know Tim's pretty stoked.
Okay, cool. Wow. All right, excellent. I definitely look forward to that.
Yeah, so I'll shoot that through, and I'll be definitely keen to know what you think of it as well. So,
Yep.
Are you still doing Mechanical Black?
Certainly am.
Yeah. So what's the latest with that?
Well, since the incident, we've only had one gig.
Yeah.
The incident, by the way, I should tell the listeners, was
yes.
I had a stroke after getting off stage from Mechanical Black gig at the Townie, and so I went down. I was paralysed, and that was a result of jumping around too much on stage, thrashing my head around, and wearing an extremely tight neck choker, and it dissected my carotid artery, and I fucking had a stroke after getting off stage, which is bizarre. And,
well, I think there's not too many people that can really say that they've had that happen to you. So I guess you should probably feel a sense of pride in some way.
For the annals of rock history. Now, I should clarify, it was only a TIA, which is like a minor stroke. So I didn't get any brain damage or anything from it, or any kind of damage at all. But I can still claim the stroke. Yeah, after that, our guitarist Sam, he left, and he's now with the Lockhart. So we're doing pretty well. The new bassist left, and we decided to focus on getting the album finished that we'd been writing for the last 5 years. We're almost there with the album, but the Shanghai album has taken sort of priority. So now that the Shanghai album is finished, we're in full Mechanical Black writing mode again, and back into that. Gigs soon, Don't know exactly when.
Just leave the choker at home.
Definitely leave the choker at home. That's right.
Okay, going off the back of Mechanical Black, I mean, I've seen your video clips and I'll put some, Tim's been involved with a couple of those in the past.
Yep.
And I'll link everyone to them because they're pretty cool. One thing that you put up on Facebook today about the visual aspect of live performance, with Mechanical Black, you've definitely got an image that you utilise on stage. So do you want to go into that a little bit?
We have Mechanical Black is essentially a trans band. So that is that the band was formed initially, myself and some other, I am genderqueer, transgender to a certain extent, and the band was formed by transgender people initially as a project to kind of document and look at a transition, for a gender transition. So that was the initial. That was back in 2007. So it wasn't meant to be a live band or anything like that. It was just we wanted to musically document one of our friends' journey through transition. And so we did that. We released our first album, then we decided we'd get a real band together and play some of those songs. And we did that, and we did quite well for it being kind of a not starting as a real band kind of thing. We got some interest and some gigs and stuff. So the image has morphed a little now from a transgender thing into more of a transhumanism thing now. But I still like to show the female side of myself on stage and in video and stuff. And it's a good outlet for me because I'm relatively tall, so it's tough for me to go out in public in women's clothing because I get hassled and beaten up and stuff like that. So it's a good way to express, and some of the others in the band are the same.
Yeah.
So it's a good way for them to express themselves in a safe sort of way, and everyone's cool. I mean, no one's given us shit at a gig yet. I mean, the closest we've got is Loki and I'm Hex, by the way, in the band. That's my band alter ego. Loki and I were changing in a bathroom once, and some bogans that we were playing with Dark Order or something. And,
yeah, right.
some bogans that were in the audience were giving us shit, and we were actually changing in the bathrooms in the cubicles, and we could hear them giving us shit. So that's the closest we got to any real sort of violence or anything like that. It's a pleasure to play those gigs, and it's just so much fun. We can sound like shit, no one cares, because we're obviously just enjoying the hell out of ourselves on stage, and no one gives a fuck.
Well, it definitely adds another dimension just to the performance point of view and an entertainment point of view. And as you said, it sucks that you can't just walk down the street and wear whatever you want and be whatever you want, and to only have that outlet on stage. But it definitely makes it easier when you're in a performance mode and having people there for a reason to see a performance and to see entertainment and to see art and whatnot.
Yeah, so I mean, earlier on, just to put it in context, this conversation, I mentioned earlier on social media that I thought that the visual aspect was inversely proportional in importance to the complexity of the music and the skill of the musicians. So if the music is basic as hell, then you've got to have a pretty good stage presence. So you've got to be either really attractive, so youthful and attractive, or dress up in fucking tinfoil and, wear capes or something, just to make it fun. Yeah, we certainly cover that aspect, and we've been getting better as a band playing together. I mean, we're still not perfect, but the music is very hard to play. So,
yeah.
And we have a tendency to perhaps some of the time we haven't perhaps played it as well as we could, me in particular. But I've been, for the new album, I've had Jimmy, you know Jimmy Lardner Brown.
Yeah.
Yeah, helping me with, so he's been kind of my tutor to get me up to speed, because I'm switching to guitar for Mechanical Black for the foreseeable future. And, yeah, I want to be able to do the music justice. So I got him on board to help me not just write some of the new stuff, but also show me how to play it.
So a big transition in a sense. I mean, you play guitar anyway, but to be able to
play
this level of material.
Yeah, this level of material. Like I'm not I'm not the world's greatest guitar player, but with Jimmy's help, I one day hope to be.
Well, look, you got a good teacher there, so at least you got a good resource.
He's an amazing guitarist. Yeah.
Still got to hear his solo CD. Have you heard it yet?
I have it. I have it in front of me. It's amazing. He is fantastic.
I'll have to grab it. I was meant to grab it when because he's playing in Darker Half now. So he came down with the guys in June when we played together in Melbourne, and
right.
I was going to grab it that night and I completely forgot.
Yeah, well, you can get it online as well. It's much better to have the physical copy. You get pictures of Jimmy and stuff, and there's it's nice to have as a kind of souvenir. I think.
Absolutely. No, I've got to have the physical thing.
Isn't he good in Darker Half?
He's a nice fit.
Yeah. And, I mean, Vo's amazing as well. Both of those two together is epic. Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see where they go next, to what sort of level. So it's a nice addition.
Is he full-time now with Darker Half? I thought he was just...
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what the latest is. I had a feeling that I read somewhere that he was jumping on permanently, but then again, I could just be making shit up. So yeah. I'll have to have a look.
Yeah.
The other thing I was going to ask is, because you've got all these different facets, all these different shades in your life of, from science to art and whatnot and everything in between. How do you juggle it, and how do you stay focused on the one thing at the one time? Because no doubt you're probably getting bombarded with everything from left, right and centre. I mean, I think most of us in the music scene here in Australia, and probably a lot of other places, we've got to juggle a day job with our art. But I think probably you're probably on another level altogether, because you've got your job, but you've also got, your quantum computing, you've got all the musical projects that you're involved with as well. I mean, from my point of view, I only just have one band that I dedicate. So how do you handle it all?
It was a problem at first. I tried juggling just one band, a PhD, and working full time, and I kind of went a bit nuts. About 5 years ago, I worked out my limit. I kind of worked myself to a point where I was fucked. I just had a bit of a breakdown. I kind of forced myself to a limit and realised what my limits were. Now I push myself to almost that point, but not quite get there. So it's constant work 7 days a week, no time for play. But, I mean, to me, the bands are more the kind of play now. I enjoy the whole process, including the stuff that is boring. To me, is entertaining in the fact that you know that there's going to be an entertaining outcome. So you get all that hope associated with it. When you're tracking fucking stuff in Pro Tools or Cubase or Logic or something, when you're tracking a project with 40 tracks and you're editing note by note the rhythm guitar section or something, you know that. I mean, that's not fun. that's not fun at all. But you know that the end result's going to be amazing. So that just keeps me going through the whole thing. So I managed to maintain a level of entertainment throughout the whole process when I'm doing the music stuff. I mean, I got to a point where I was in 4 bands. So 4 bands, PhD, book, plus full-time work, and they ended up kicking me out of the 4th band because that was my breaking point. I could not give them enough time. And they were cool about it, but they were right, I'm not going to mention any names, but I just was not practicing the stuff. I'd just show up to rehearsals and I'd say, look, dude, I just haven't had time. Eventually I got the shits. I think I've reached my sort of the maximum amount of stuff I can do without doing any more.
Which is still a fair bit.
Which is a fair bit. I'd like to do more, but I can't do any more than my current load.
No, absolutely. Is there anything any methods or practices that you utilise on a daily basis just to get yourself through the day and make sure that you touch everything and make sure everything still stays fresh and moving? Yeah,
definitely. I mean, Jerry Seinfeld gave some good advice. He said that his way of getting through, because Larry David and Jerry Seinfeld worked like absolute dogs on that show, 7 days a week, all year. The way Jerry got through every day of doing that was to just have an unbroken line of working on the project every day. So he on the calendar, he'd mark off that he'd worked on the project that day, and he wanted to see an unbroken line on the whole calendar. So that's one technique. So you can use the unbroken line technique. And on a daily basis, I have a couple of to-do lists. So I have my main to-do list, which I populate in the morning with, say, over kind of a brainstorming session, 20 or 30 things. And then I get all the stuff and I chop it up into 30 to 90-minute blocks and put it into a day planner so I can get the maximum utilization of every single minute of the day and not get confused or get caught up in doing any particular activity. And they've shown that probably the maximum amount of time you should dedicate to any one single activity is a 90-minute block. Then after that, you should have about a 15-minute rest. So I don't go over 90 minutes for one thing.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's a series of techniques like that, but there is a process involved.
Yeah, no, I love it. It's something that I've been trying to shape and mold over the last few months, is trying to get new methods and techniques to try and juggle everything that I do, which is, in comparison to what you've got on your plate, it's virtually nothing. But the biggest problem that I have, and I'm sure most people probably have the same issues, is that you tend to get caught up in things that just are a waste of time. They're just wasted decisions, wasted distractions along the way. And before you know it, an hour's disappeared or half a day's disappeared, and you haven't really shown anything for it. So it's I think as you mentioned, like having those sort of blocks during the day dedicated to particular things and having it mapped out first thing in the morning sort of at least gives you a bit of a vision as to what you need to achieve.
Yeah, time boxing. Yeah, it does. Time boxing helps stop the superfluous waste of time and just getting lost in an activity. But then again, if it's fun, then fuck it, just do it all day.
Don't say that. I'll just start drinking.
Yeah, dude, I used to smoke pot all day. That's all I did, right? So yeah, this is in stark contrast to what I do now, which is really I don't even drink. The amount of time that I waste when I drink through just getting drunk, and then you've got the hangover and all that sort of stuff, it cuts into my time, man. So I have to plan.
Yeah.
If I'm going to have a big drinking binge, I have to actually plan it. And push this stuff out, or it's, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I'm starting to get into that mindset now. I think now I realise the consequences more so of time being lost. It's not so much dedicating a Friday or a Saturday night to going out and having a good time when I could be doing something at home, but it's more so the next day, and realising that you can't get up early and have a productive morning because you're more or less lying in bed or hanging off the couch trying to work out how the hell to lift your head. So
yeah.
It's a growing transition that I'm in at the moment. I'm growing up slowly.
But you do a lot of stuff, man. Like, the amount of stuff you do, on the amount of promotion you do, the amount of work you do for the band, as well as your job. That's got to be a 7-day-a-week job anyway. So you'd have some pretty good time management stuff going on there anyway, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I think so. I do have quite a few hats, and as soon as I'm walking out the door from one thing, I'm switching hats and moving into the other one. But I do find that at the end of the day, when I'm about to fall asleep, that I can definitely identify the areas or the times during the day where I really didn't do anything, and I could have filled that with something. And maybe I don't need to fill every single moment of the day with something productive as such, but I can always see areas of improvement. So and I think that's a positive. Like, I get excited about that because I know that there's potential to do more and achieve more and whatnot. So it's a never-ending learning process.
Yep. Okay.
So I'll wrap this up. But I've got one final thing to quiz you about.
Yes.
And I'll put a link in it as well. The Riley Perry Mullet Appreciation Society.
Ah, yes. Yeah, it's my mullet.
Can you give me? There's a couple of nice examples on the Facebook page. But do you want to give me a bit of context to it?
Look, I've been a fan of mullets since the late 80s, when I had my first mullet, and I've been kind of mullet watching for the last good 20 years now, and and it is something that has not gone out of fashion. The mullet has, but mullet watching hasn't. I've had a consistent stream of mullets to watch and mock for 20 years now. So it's been good. And since I've moved to Campbelltown, well, fuck, it's central down here, man. It's amazing. But no, I had the best mullet that I've ever seen. It was like a 2-foot long mullet, and it was definitely an epic party at the back, and there wasn't so much business on top, but it was less of a party on top. So it was.
Yeah. Was there anybody that your mullet was sculptured based on? Was there inspiration there?
Yeah. Look, I had a Hetfield. I had a Hetfield, and he was the main man. Yeah, in his day, he rocked a pretty good mullet. But, look, if you've got for those out there who have sported a mullet in the past or who are perhaps now, look, I got to tell you, the bass player from Viscera has a wonderful mullet. So that's and he's proud. He's proud of his mullet. I'm sure he'd put up some shots of his mullet on the page if I asked him. I encourage anyone to put up old shots of mullets.
Well, I've always said that when the hair starts falling out of my head, I'll do the transition mullet. So I'll get a nice mullet or maybe a skullet happening before I lock it all off.
Indeed.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure, Andy.
All right. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening. As I said before in the intro, I'll have all the links in the show notes for Riley's projects and books and everything like that. So quantum theory books, everything will be in there. Music from Shanghai, Mechanical Black. There'll be some video clips and whatnot in there as well. You'll get to see a lot more of a visual aspect of what Riley does and what he's done over the years. And it's quite cool. It's really, really, really cool. And I hope that everyone's been able to get something out of this and learn something new or a different perspective, different way of thinking. And I just, even if it just triggers a quick thought that may evolve into something bigger that's unrelated to the podcast itself, then that's fantastic. Still don't know what the go is with all this stuff, but by this stage, hopefully it's all up and running. But give us a review on iTunes. Make sure that you give me a good rating, even if you're just doing it as being a mate. Please be nice. If you hate the podcast, then I don't know why the hell you're listening to me now. But for whatever reason, if you've got a big chip on your shoulder and you absolutely hate what you're listening to, but you just can't possibly get away from my voice and turn off your iPhone or your computer or whatever it is, well, first of all, you've got problems. But please, otherwise, don't bother leaving a review. If you really want to send me some hate mail, shoot it through the Facebook page or shoot me an email or something along those lines. It'll be way more constructive, and I'll just say it'll be far more destructive if you do that as opposed to leaving some half-assed crappy review on iTunes or wherever it may be. All the links, the usual spiel. Website is andysocial.net, which some of you guys will probably be on already and listening from there. I've got a Facebook page, which I can't remember what the hell it's called, but you know me, it's going to be hoarded out all over the place, and chances are you already like the page. I'm on Twitter, Andy Dowling. The band stuff is all there, lord.net.au. The web store, lord.net.au/store. YouTube, Twitter, it's all Lord Official. Search it, have a look, do the usual, rate, comment, share, whatever, do whatever you need to do. It's all appreciated. And actually, one last thing while I remember, I think I'm going to have problems getting enough people to do interviews purely around my procrastination. Maybe by this stage I've got a bit of momentum going and it's not an issue, but I'm trying to think of other things to do as far as those in-between episodes, like I did with the John Farnham thing. So I've got a few cool ideas. They are not intellectually stimulating in the sense that it's going to be anything of value from an intellectual point of view, but there may be something entertaining. I've got a few sort of little ideas for not so much segments, but I guess they're segments, but they'll be standalone episodes anyway, and they'll just be little things that I can upload just to keep the whole podcast going. And look, you may get a laugh from it, you may think it's absolutely inappropriate and just crap. If so, just don't listen to it. That's all I can ask. Just don't listen to it. But I'll continue to find new people. If I can get this mic shit set up been working with Skype properly. There's a lot of people that I've been speaking to that I've said, look, I will get you on, or we'll make it happen, blah, blah, blah. Hopefully all that stuff will fall into place and I'll still have plenty of guests on anyway. But I've got a lot of funny things coming up, and I'm definitely no comedian, but it's going to amuse myself. So I think the big key in this is, well, I really hope that you all like it. If I don't like it, then there's no point. So as long as I'm amusing myself and entertaining myself, everything else is secondary, as much as I do appreciate positive feedback. So the things that I've got in mind for the upcoming episodes are just ridiculous, and they're amusing just to think about. So even on that very basic level, I should get a kick out of it, and it should be a bit of a laugh. So yeah, anyway, enough rambling. Thanks for listening, and all the links and everything are on the webpage, show notes, and I'm going to have some sponsors, or should I say some fake sponsors on the next episode, just to fill in the gaps and just add a bit more rambling time, because I just like talking shit. Anyway, thanks guys. See ya.